Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Power Platform Governance session. I am Zohar, the Group Product Manager for the Power Platform Governance team.
And I'm Evan Liu. I'm the Group Product Manager for the Power Apps Enterprise Platform Group.
This is my favorite time of the year, where we get to share all the new capabilities and demo what's new in managing low-code asset at scale. So if you're an IT professional, a Chief Information Security Officer, or any Power Platform administrator, this session will give you a good overview. We'll be sharing some great new announcements, and we'll provide some useful pointers to learn more. Just before we jump into some cool demos, let me quickly level set on what has been happening in the low-code space. The low-code concept has been around for decades. During the low-code 1.0 era, employees built on-premise solutions using Excel and Access, InfoPath, and other tools. And these creative solutions were mostly hidden from IT, making it impossible to govern at scale. During the low-code 2.0 era, many of these legacy assets have been replaced with cloud-based solutions, built using a variety of standalone providers for flows and apps, bots, portals, and dashboards. Different solution providers offer different governance capabilities, and organizations face the challenge of growing pockets of specialized expertise. With the Power Platform, Microsoft is igniting the low-code 3.0 era with a central low-code platform that allows makers to enjoy shared components and common building blocks across a rich set of maker canvases. The platform allows organizations to bring all these low-code assets into a central framework and give IT the needed visibility to govern all these assets centrally and at scale. Similar to the Microsoft 365 transformation with files and meetings, moving all the assets to a cloud central platform allows organizations to digitally transform and boost the productivity of its employees. Microsoft's Power Platform offers a set of maker portals that empower employees, also known as makers, to build apps and flows, portals, bots, and dashboards using a PowerPoint-like experience. Makers easily connect to any needed data source using the hundreds of connectors that the platform offers. Dataverse allows makers to build sophisticated solutions with persistent storage and advanced app logic. And using the AI builders, makers can easily build rich low-code solutions that not long ago needed an army of developers to develop. Separately, the Power Platform plays a key role in the broader Microsoft Cloud architecture. Scenarios in SharePoint, Teams, Dynamics 365 products rely on the Power Platform as a service for automation and for app customizations. If you are already using SharePoint or Teams, you're most likely already using the Power Platform. The last thing to call out is that the Power Platform runs on top of Azure. And hence, the platform benefits from the strength of the Azure security, advanced management capabilities, and the rich set of industry-specific certifications for banks, pharmaceuticals, and government organizations. To see such a digital transformation and how it looks like inside an enterprise, let's take a quick look at how Lumen Technology, the network and modern industry platform provider, has been adopting the Microsoft Power Platform and integrating it into Microsoft Teams to make their employees more productive.
What I really love about working at Lumen Technologies is our vision for the future. We have moved from being a telecom company for many, many years to a network company to this idea of a platform company. We have brought together several different companies, each with their own processes, procedures, even different networks and products. And trying to merge those together is really one of the biggest hurdles. We had to make a very hard pivot when everything went home, when everything went mobile, to have our instructors, our facilitators, go from classroom instruction in person to a virtual world.
The Lumen Makers community is comprised of business users and IT people across the company.
Talent development is our first case of where we're using Teams, not only as a collaborative development environment, but where the users actually go and access the tools.
Chuck said, where are your pain points? And we started to say, well, our big one is how do we set up classes? How do we enroll people? I need to get a couple things done with one of the class sessions. Can you show me how to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we start with the
Microsoft Teams and Power Platform allows us to build efficiency. A lot of the business processes we used to run through spreadsheets or we used to run in email can be accommodated for in Teams with automated processes.
They needed a simple way for people to request vendor training. And the current process they had, it was very error prone. So the Power App reduced the errors. The next piece was we needed a way to capture certifications throughout the company. The app would enable anyone in the company to say, okay, I've got the certification, here's when it ends. And then they would get notifications like, oh, your certification is getting ready to expire. But it also enables to report. So when it came time in those competitive sales situations, it's like, look, here's our team. Because this is something that enables a competitive advantage where we're in a sales situation.
So now we deliver on Microsoft Teams. We have the Power App. We have our chat channels, so everything is happening within one interface. And now we have these Power Apps where within a few minutes, and I love saying minutes rather than days, we can set up a class, we can enroll people in that class, we can make changes to that enrollment, and then we can close out the class at the end. That extra admin time that they were taking up can now be reallocated to platform time. More platform time means more time in front of our sellers, which means better training. I think the big shift with the Lumen Makers is that we're putting the ability to create these collaborative apps into the hands of the people who are closest to the work. Microsoft Teams and Power Platform really gives us a way to meet our internal customers where they live. And I see the future just growing because the platform keeps growing.
Just like in Lumen, a key thing to acknowledge is that IT plays a critical role in igniting and nurturing the digital transformation inside the organization. You may have different roles to play depending on the stage of adoption that your company is at. We use this adoption maturity model to describe the stages of the Power Platform adoption that we see across different organizations. From the initial stage on the left, where you'll find pockets of success stories showing up in Teams or SharePoint, all the way to the efficient stage on the right, where organizations has a well-established center of enablement, Fusion teams modernizing and automating legacy experiences, dozens of mission-critical solutions running in production, and a vibrant community of makers. In the efficient stage, IT has put guardrails and processes in place, allowing innovation to flourish while keeping the digital environment safe. To help IT govern the adoption growth, we've been hard at work building new capabilities to empower you to better monitor and better control the low-code assets. A key element for proper governance is visibility into what is happening in your digital environment and having the ability to identify patterns and take action if anything is out of order. Earlier this year, we've released the new tenant-level analytics in the Power Platform Admin Center. These new reports give you a great bird's-eye view to what is happening in your tenant. Let me move over to the demo station and show you some of these new capabilities. Here I am in the Power Platform Admin Center, and I navigated to the Power Apps Reports page. On the top right, you could see the new tenant-level analytics toggle. This leads me to the new set of reports. Starting with the Usage tab, I see the top apps and their usage activity based on unique users. Switching to the Makers tab lets me learn about my most active makers, the overall number of active apps, and this table at the bottom shows me the apps, their owners, and if they've been shared with others. Moving to the Inventory tab, I could see the full list of all our apps. I could use the filters to identify apps that have been inactive and should be cleared. I could get a bird's eye view of flows if I switch to the Power Automate page. In this Usage tab, I could see the popular flows and drill down to learn more about their success and failure rates. All these reports provide me a month's worth of insights, and I could use the chart to identify patterns. For example, here I could see that earlier in August, there was a spike in failure rates that looked suspicious. And I suspect it's got to do with a policy change that I did that ended up blocking some of the flows. It's an opportunity for me to reach out to the flow owners and see if there's any concerns. Switching to the Makers tab, I see the details on my top flow makers, and the inventory tab is where I could go and see the list of all the flows in the system. Here again, I could use the filters to identify specific flows. For example, I could filter to only see the flows from developer environments. Now let me switch to the data export page. This is where I go to set up data export for advanced analytics. I connect to my Azure Data Lake, which will also let me retain data for longer and allow me to build custom reports. And the best way for me to demo some of the custom reports is by showing you the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. We have built the COE toolkit using our low-code platform. It is a great governance tool used by thousands of customers. It is a downloadable package of dashboards, apps, and flows that we refresh monthly and provide as an open source for the community or you to customize further. With that, I'm pleased to announce that the new installation wizard is now in preview, which not only simplifies the installation process, but it also gives you a choice to connect directly to the data lake that I just showed in the export page. And the advantage of doing so includes cost saving and running the tool at high scale. Let me demo some of those COE toolkit reports and how you can extend the data export to combine data from other data sources. So I switched over to the COE Starter Toolkit. On the Power BI portal, you could see monitor, govern, and nurture categories. This package is extremely rich, but I'm going to focus on monitor. Let's pick the Flow License Assessment Report as an example to show you how these reports pull data from additional sources like the org tree info. Here, I can drill down to find which flows are using premium connectors and specifically which department owns these flows. First on my list is the COE toolkit. Switching to using the new data lake integration will make this bar go away. Next in line is the HR department, and I could go deep dive into connectors to learn how HR is using Dataverse and desktop flows. In this case, we might decide to reach out to the HR team and ask them to pay for the licenses that they've been using. Now that I showed you a custom report with data coming from different sources, I also want to show you how the data gets stored for longer. If I pick, for example, the Power Apps Adoption Report, you could see the bottom tile has data collected since 2019. Since data is collected in my own store, I get to decide how long I want to retain the signals. Now that we've seen both the out-of-the-box and custom reports, let's switch to talk about what actions you can take. With the new capabilities in the visibility space, you can now start doing reactive governance. Identify if there's anything out of order, like an app that should not be there, and take actions like quarantining or deleting an app if needed. Earlier this year, we've released App Quarantine and App Access Control that are a few examples of actions that you can take. The next thing I'd like to show you is more about how you could do proactive governance. If there are patterns that you find when monitoring adoption, you can start using the data policy engine to set rules across the tenant or on dedicated environments. You can use the data policies to block or limit connectors, and you can use the new tenant isolation capabilities to restrict what tenant-to-tenant collaboration should be permitted in your environments. Let me show you a few of these capabilities. Back to the Power Platform Admin Center. First, let me show you tenant isolation. This new security feature allows me to block external users from running automation, even if they have access to our tenant. Since we at Fabricam work closely with Contoso, I am going to only allow cross-collaboration between Contoso and Fabricam before I hit save. The next thing to show is what we've added in the data policy space. A maker has asked me to allow her to connect to SQL Server. So I'm going to use edit policy to change an existing data policy, in this case, Fabricam restricted. I already blocked all the unapproved connectors in this policy. And you could see the SQL connector is placed in blocked. Instead of allowing access to any SQL Server, now I could use endpoint filtering to specify the SQL to unblock and then block all the rest. I also want to prevent applications from deleting items in the database. So I'm going to use action control to block deletion. All that is left is to move SQL to the permitted list, hit next a few times, and save my changes. And just like that, my tenant stays protected while the maker is unblocked. We recognize that there's a lot to learn as we continue to introduce new powerful tools to allow you to both reactive and proactive govern your Power Platform. We are investing in making it easier to onboard. And this slide shows you some great resources to help you get started, including the COE Starter Toolkit that I demoed, the Adoption Guide, and the new Landing Zone and Reference Architecture Guide. With that all said and done, we are heavily investing in making it simple, not just powerful. And for that, I'm going to hand it over to Evan to share more about the new announcements of managed environments. Evan, take it away.
Thanks, Zohar. We know that we can make governing the Power Platform easier. And that's why we've introduced Managed Environments, a brand new capability to streamline and simplify governance at scale. Admins can activate Managed Environments with just a few clicks and immediately light up features that provide more visibility, more control, with less effort to manage all their low-code assets. Today, we are announcing that Managed Environments is generally available. Nearly 1,000 organizations are already using Managed Environments in preview, including some of the largest companies on the planet. They're getting more visibility into how low-code is adopted across their organization, more control with sharing limits that restrict how broadly apps can be shared, and they're doing all of this with less effort, thanks to easy, out-of-the-box activation. Now, Managed Environments is a key part of the Power Platform family in the same way that AI Builder infuses intelligence into our products and Dataverse provides the data backbone. Managed Environments streamlines governance of the platform at scale. One of the customers using Managed Environments is Pacific Gas and Electric Company. They provide power to 16 million people throughout California. And they've been using the Power Platform for a year and a half and already have over 1,000 makers who have built more than 2,000 apps and 4,000 flows. So let me show you how PG&E is able to streamline governance with Managed Environments. So here I am in the Power Platform Admin Center. I want to go ahead and activate Managed Environments. I just choose the environment and pick the options I want, whether to limit sharing in the environment or get usage insights. So I'm just going to stick with the defaults. And just like that, I've upgraded to a managed environment. So let's talk about how Managed Environments gives you more visibility. So I can add brand new insight cards on the Admin Center homepage that shows me top makers, top apps, and top flows across my organization, as well as stale apps and flows that haven't been used in a while. There's no need to set up a data lake or dig through analytics reports. Key adoption trends in the environments I care about are right there on the homepage. And I can get these insights delivered straight to my inbox with the weekly Admin Digest emails. I can see at a glance that these apps haven't been used in a while and should get cleaned up. Now, Managed Environments requires all users running apps or flows in that environment to have a standalone Power Apps or Power Automate license. And we've heard from customers that license management and knowing who's licensed for what is just hard. Well, with the new license reports, I can easily see which environments might need license attention, how many users are active in the environment, and what licenses are being used so I can make the most of my licenses. And with Managed Environments, I can also get one-click visibility into the data policies that are active for the environment. Zohar showed earlier what you can do with DLP policies. Well, here I can easily see which ones have been applied to this environment, making it easier to keep my data safe. We showed you how Managed Environments gives you more visibility with usage insights on the homepage, Admin Digest emails, license reports, and quick data policy views. Now let's talk about how Managed Environments gives you more control. With sharing limits, I can restrict how widely Canvas apps and solution flows are shared. I can choose to block sharing with security groups and set a limit for how many people an app can be shared with. or I can restrict sharing to only security groups, a new option that lets you take advantage of your Active Directory group setup. So let's say this is a personal productivity environment and I want to cap sharing to 2 people to reduce the blast radius in case there's an issue with an app that you don't want available to everyone. Now, if we go to share an app with more than 2 users, the sharing is blocked and they can be directed to documentation that's specific to their organization and learn, for example, how to move that app to a production environment for broad distribution. Managed environments also gives me more control over what apps and flows get published to production. I can configure Solution Checker, which contains dozens of security and reliability rules to run automatically whenever a solution is imported into this environment. And I can decide if a security vulnerability or unsafe customization is detected, whether the whole import should be blocked, or if I just want a warning. So let's set this to block. Now, if someone goes to import a solution and Checker detects a security or reliability vulnerability, that import will be blocked, and the report will explain what rules failed. Now, blocking bad apps from getting to production is great, but what if you could reduce the number of bad apps from getting created in the first place? Well, with managed environments, you can customize the maker's onboarding experience in the product with content that's specific to your organization to help makers build safe, secure, and compliant apps from the start. I can just add my content right here. It can be plain text or include Markdown for formatting and images. And now when someone goes to create an app for the first time, they'll be prompted with this custom content directly in the product. And I can include onboarding links, training videos, or security policies for my organization to equip makers with the right resources out of the gate. Now, we've talked about how managed environments gives you more control with sharing limits, security and reliability validations, and the ability to customize the maker onboarding experience. Now let's talk about how managed environments means less effort. We know that governing a low-code platform today for large numbers of users requires a lot of manual work and expertise. Our vision for managed environments is to streamline, simplify, and automate much of that work. Everything you've seen here, from sharing limits to automated security validations to usage insights, can be activated out of the box with just a few clicks, saving admins time and effort. I'd like to show you one more feature coming later this year that makes administering the Power Platform considerably less effort. We've heard from customers that ALM, or Application Lifecycle Management, in the Power Platform is challenging. In many organizations, makers manually export and import solutions from development to production environments, but this approach is not only labor-intensive and error-prone, but it really limits IT visibility and control. Some customers have automated this process with pro-dev tools like Azure DevOps or GitHub. However, setting all that up is really complex, and the tools are just too hard for citizen makers to use. So later this year, we will eliminate much of that complexity by bringing ALM automation into the product and making it accessible to all makers with Power Platform pipelines. Let's take a look. So this is the solution I'm working with here in the Maker portal. I've gone ahead to select this pipeline that's already been set up. Pipelines are basically a series of automated steps that move your work from one environment to another. This pipeline will take my solution from the development environment on the left to the test environment. And then there's another stage to take it from test to production. So let's deploy to test, hit next, and here I'll confirm my connections to the test environment to make sure I'm using the right credentials. Next, I'll configure my environment variables to make sure, for example, that I'm pointing to the right SharePoint site in test. So let's pick that one. And this is important if the site in test is different than the one I was using in development. And once I set it all up, I can just hit deploy, and pre-flight validations are automatically run to make sure I've got the right dependencies and the solution doesn't violate any DLP policies in that target environment. The pipeline can also be set up so that approval is required before the deployment can run. Looks like everything was successful here. Now, after I've run my pipeline, I get full visibility and an audit trail of the deployments across my organization, with every solution backed up and versioned. This feature has been in the works for a while, and we're excited for how pipelines will finally bring ALM automation to all makers, not just pro devs, and give admins the tools they need to control what goes to production. And this is just the beginning of our journey. We are investing heavily in managed environments, and we'll be adding more features in the coming months to provide IT admins with more visibility, more control, with less effort. Now, the features we walk through will be rolled out in phases. Some of them, like the admin digest and sharing limits, are available today. The rest will be rolling out by the end of the year. So in the coming weeks and months, you'll see usage insights on the homepage, new trends in the admin digest, and reports for license usage. Sharing limits will get more controls and support solution flows, and you'll be able to block unsafe deployments with Solution Checker. The custom maker onboarding and pipeline capabilities will also come later this year. Now, managed environments is included with standalone Power Apps and Power Automate licenses, which makes it well suited for customers that are all in on the Power Platform. And when you enable managed environments, all users who run apps or flows in that environment will need a Power Apps or Power Automate standalone license. So, on top of access to hundreds of premium connectors and the rich capabilities of Dataverse, the standalone license now includes all these built-in governance capabilities. And you can learn more and get started using the link on the screen. Zohar, back to you.
Thank you, Evan. That was super cool. So much new stuff. So as we come to a close, we want to leave you with this call to action slide and with resources to learn more. It comes back to this adoption maturity model. As I mentioned, you may have different roles to play in this digital transformation journey. The art you get to perform is finding the right sweet spot for your company, where your employees can strive while the digital environment remains governed. Start early with simple, monitor using the out-of-the-box analytics, and do the needed reactive governance. Gradually switch to proactive governance and use the managed environment feature. If you need more custom solution, then adopt the COE toolkit, the export to data lake, or other powerful tools from the guidance in the next slide. We are heavily invested in making the governance simple and powerful, and we hope this was enough to inspire you to get started. We will leave you with this slide of valuable pointers, and thank you once again for tuning in.